we are going to develop cultural and humanitarian ties. In security, we are talking about assistance in fighting against terrorism and drug trafficking. Our experts note progress of Afghans on civilization in the country and drug trafficking. According to the data of the UN, comparing with 2021, I will remind that at that time Taliban came to power. In 2024, the fields of poppy seeds decreased 14 times. There is a concrete number from 177,000 in 2025 to 12.8 tenths of hectares in 2024. I would like to remind you the numbers. You know it perfectly. Until 2024, it was 20 years that this territory was under control of the United States and NATO. And you remember the lack of, that there is no answer. What was taken by NATO, by planes of the NATO when they were leaving Afghanistan? Next question, newsroom. Hello, Maria Vladimirovna. Yes, we're here. On Monday, Brazil finalized BRICS summit, where head of the ministry took place, Sergei Lavrov. At the sidelines, he had a number of meetings. What are the results of this forum for Russia?
I would like to specify, you're talking about the outcomes of the BRICS forum. Yes, key for Russia. We talked about it a lot today, and I'll remind you briefly some things. The press conference of Sergei Lavrov lasted about 40 minutes. He talked about in great detail, about the work of the Russian delegation and the participation in the summit, as well as about bilateral negotiations. The text is available on the website. The meeting was very representative, and a lot of people were there, almost 30 countries, including representatives of the global South and East, including those presiding in regional associations and leaders of the UN Secretariats, the World Health Organization, World Trade Organization, and bilateral development banks. This facilitates the strengthening of the voice of the association. This was said by the President Vladimir Putin. This voice supports the just and sustainable polycentric world order on the basis on the principles of the UN Charter. Those are the ideas that you won't hear in the Western platforms. Those are the words and wordings long forgotten there. This is the language of cultural and mutual respectful interaction that is banned in the Western minority. Even more, this is a combination of prospects of a polycentric world order with the traditions of the international law, the UN Charter, the United Nations itself. That is why I can say that the discussions identified close stances of the majority of participants to the majority of international issues. We are grateful for balanced positions on the Ukrainian conflict, support the necessity to remove the root causes of this conflicts, and the strong condemnation of terror attacks on the railroads and bridges in the Kursk, Bryansk, and Voronezh regions of the Russian Federation May-June this year, leading to numerous victims among civilians. These were ideas cannot be heard on the Western platforms, and BRICS has a voice to say this at the global level. We would like the Brazil presidency to continue with the ideas of the Russian presidency and the agreements that were reached in Kazan following the 16th summit of the associations. First of all, I'm talking about the involvement of the partner countries to various ministerial and expert mechanisms within the associations. There's more work on a trans-border payment initiative of BRICS, building up the capabilities of BRICS participants, the use of the national currencies in mutual settlements, establishment of a new investment platform, establishment of associations of special economic zones in the countries of the association, the grain exchange of BRICS, and others. We proceed from the fact that mechanisms established within the association support the efforts of our national countries. To be honest, the terms are the same, the notions are the same. They're enshrined at the international in international documents, and they're used at international platforms. But in Asia, they use the word developing amid the recessions that Western countries suffer from, and they call themselves developed countries. We kept you informed on the sidelines of the summit. Had a number of bilateral meetings with President of Bolivia, Prime Minister of Vietnam, his counterparts from Belarus, Brazil, India, Iran, Mexico, Turkey, and General Director of the WTO. There were also contacts, as diplomats say, in the working manner. Is Bold News with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. The Baltic countries are known for their militarist position. The tracks involve mobilization, planning, and coordination, support of allies in line with the defense plans, organization of joint military exercises. Besides, in September 2025, together with Russia, Belarus, Exercise West 2025, there were other exercises. What does the Foreign Ministry think about whether the Baltic states is the military and diplomatic center of NATO? We would like to see how they finally are prosperous countries, how they are developing. As a result, they have a terrible role. It's not even a role, it's a function. It's a function in this Russophobe performance. That is to be aggressive triad, aggressive members of NATO that have no personal agenda, no national interests. They should, day by day, hype up hatred, set peoples and countries against each other, and hype up the hatred narratives. This is their function. Everything is forgotten. The economy, industry, production, science, arts, everything is gone. They abandoned even those things they had. There is only aggression as a function of these regimes. And their main idea, the policy that they're pursuing, that they must pursue, is a terrible threat coming from Russia. They support and rationalize, promote all friendly initiatives of NATO, the EU, the Council of Europe, and so on and so forth. These regimes give their territory for forward deployed forces of NATO, but who wants this in their countries? Lithuania implements plans to deploy a separate brigade of Germany. There's a military training exercises close to their borders. One of the most outrageous examples is a large-scale multinational exercise of the alliance on the territory of the Baltic states in Poland, Griffin Light in 2025. During the stages, the so-called stages, the so-called exercises in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, they trained the offensive operation in the Baltic theater of operations. Just think about it. They trained the storming of the Kaliningrad region. What kind of defense alliance is this, if they do something like that? When we say countries, we mean regimes in the Baltic states. They are eager to spearhead the confrontation with our country. They destroy the remains of the balance of stability, and they are asking for it. The additional tensions on the Russian borders does not reflect their interest of their own security and stability. Thanks to you. Thank you. Is author E with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. We have one question today. Evgenia Gutsul, she's she's under house arrest. She is expected on August the it is expected that on August the 5th the court will deliver the verdict on her case. Her supporters and members of her party are experience persecution, political persecution. What can you say about it? We follow closely the situation in the Moldova in general, and this top profile case in particular, the situation with the violation of human rights and basic legality is of character of the Sound regime. Those who support the constructive dialogue with Russia come under attack. All of this is accompanied with accusations against our country in attempts to interfere into internal affairs of Moldova. These proceedings against the legally elected head of the Gagauz Republic, Evgenia Gutsul, is an act of violence. A criminal case is considered by everyone for an artificial. Ordinary people see that the case is falling apart. Since April the 9th, she's under house arrest, and it is an attempt to threaten and to obstruct her activities in the run-up to the elections to the Parliament of Moldova. De facto, they try to strip people of their constitutional rights. We cannot expect that Chisinau will abandon such methods. The elections are scheduled on September the 28th, and these trends will only will not continue. Such actions of the local authorities cause outrage among the locals. The demand to give her sentence in prison for 9 years caused outrage. The actions of the Moldovan authorities against Evgenia Gutsul led to polarization and division in the Moldovan society. They talked many times that she undermines the national security, she acts against the country, she doesn't respect the country. But who renamed the Moldovan language? Who rename Moldovans into Romanians? Who does everything to destroy the Moldovan identity? It is Sandu. Maybe it is her who should be given 9 years in prison. These are the facts to destroy the Moldovan identity, culture, authenticity, and conscience. I'm not even talking about history. Who refuses people in Moldova now in honoring the heroic deed of their ancestors? Who rewrites the history? It is them who should be given 9 years in prison. It is surprising. It is cynical. The authorities of the country attempt to accuse Russia of everything, who allegedly encourage protests in the country. Imagine a country where authorities come and say that there is no such a language as the Moldovan language, or the national language, the local language, that there is no such nationality. That's what happened in Ukraine. The internal conflict that turned out to be horrendous. People in Moldova are prohibited to think that they are Moldovans. Understand that they ceased being Moldovans for some reason. All the responsibility for internal political situation in Moldova is on the authorities in the country and the West. We cannot even talk about the stability in the country because Sandu got the situation very unstable. International structures that no one really hoped for anymore should know what's going on there. They talk about human rights, but they don't see very specific problems in the zone of their responsibility. Is Ukraine.ru with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. My name is Anna Cherkasova. I represent Ukraine.ru. I have the following questions. On July the 8th, during the session of the Human Rights Council, the consensus resolution was adopted. In your opinion, how can this document be useful in protection of journalists from illegal actions? I would like to say that this document was introduced to the review of the Human Rights Council by the Western countries. Those very countries at another platform, the international platform, for example at UNESCO, had a drastically different stance when they had to talk about the security of journalists in a very practical manner, just to enumerate, to name a list of journalists killed, who were killed by the militants who targeted journalists and killed them, or maimed those journalists. those actions should be qualified as terror attack, and our country qualified them as such. Think about it, remember about it. I mean, the cases of Daria Dugina, Vladimir Tatarsky, the explosions of Zahar Prilepin, who survived by miracle and lost a friend to the terror attack. Where were all those representatives of the EU countries who did everything they could so that in a similar document but at another platform to disregard, to keep a blind eye on the situation. This document was also introduced by the Kiev regime. They attempted to be involved in this as well. Those who directly responsible for the degradation of the situation around the situation and the protection of journalists and to free access to information tried to show themselves as advocates of freedom and security. This is a world of post-truth. The authors of the resolution say that they care about the this problem. I mean, those who marginalize journalists, persecute them. And I mean, not only journalists from Russia themselves, but even their families and their children. They write that they care about it. Is it the Kiev regime who target the journalists, the media outlets, correspondents, and made them their target? They're proud of this. They keep a list of the killed journalists and correspondents.
At the same time, many of them are conducting the policy that they do not allegedly do on paper. A lot of co-sponsors of these resolutions, but over 30 countries impose sanctions against Russian media, banning their operations on their territory. How did they dare do that, to initiate such a document? A flagrant demonstration of double standards and hypocrisy is the presence of Kiev regime representatives that suppress any dissent and persecute public figures, journalists, reporters. It's beyond comprehension. Nobody is bothered by that. In the opposite case, instead of promoting the resolution that has nothing to do with the real state of affairs in the countries, that better concentrate on qualifying the Kiev regime crimes against journalists and civilians. They have to rectify the situation in their media, and they have to stop financing the Kiev regime that kills those journalists. The documents that I've just mentioned, or similar documents to the resolution that we're talking about, can play a positive role. However, only in the case when behind the wordings of them are real determination of the authors to solve the issues in this regard, not by the desire to conceal their crimes and their shameful crimes by these papers. This resolution, promoted by Westerners, serves as a way to lie to their populations with regard to their own crimes. Every day, every briefing, we state the lack of reaction to atrocities against reporters. And we see this strategic silencing by relevant structures, including the High Commission of Human Rights, of these numerous crimes against reporters. All these facts have been carefully documented. and have been submitted to consideration. The High Commissioner for Human Rights and other international institutes that protect journalists should carefully look at the content of reports of the Ombudsman of the Russian Federation for Human Rights. These reports touch upon the second joint report on Russian and Belarusian foreign ministries on the crimes against civilians. It has been published in both Russian and English. They should also look into the document titled Repression Against Russian Journalists. We update it in real time, and it represents a real situation on how journalists' rights are being ensured by Westerners and the Kiev regime, sponsored by the West. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have Kyodo Tsusim with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. I have a question regarding Afghanistan. It's kind of similar to the question from Reuters. Last week, we learned that the Russian Federation recognized the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Can you comment on the recognizing the Emirate? We have given an assessment to this regard, and I think it would be incorrect to speak about modifying the Russian position. Russia has steadily advocated the mutual beneficial cooperation with Afghanistan to the benefit of both peoples. The factors that define our positions, and these factors are evident. Afghanistan has a unique geostrategic location and can in the future become a connecting link in implementing large-scale energy and infrastructure projects. In demand is the contribution of Kabul to solve regional security issues, including issues of illicit drug trafficking and terrorism. I'd like to say once again the following, namely the centuries-old cultural and historical ties between our countries. We regularly highlight this topic. That's why the decision of the Supreme Court paved the way to establish a full-fledged partnership with the authorities in Kabul. The credentials were also provided, and I think it has strengthened the trend that has been evident over the past couple of years. Thank you very much. Thank you. Do we have Lenta Ru with us? Yes, Madam Zakharova. Hello. We have only one question to you today. How does Russia assess the prospects of establishing better relations with Azerbaijan after the situation around the detention of Russian journalists, and what signals does Baku send? We maintain contacts with Azerbaijan in this regard, through our law enforcement agencies, and we believe that diplomatic and political channels should be used to solve this issue. That's our approach, and this approach serves the core interests of our countries. Thank you very much. Do we have Anadolu with us? Yes, Madam Zakharova. We only have one question today. Will Russia and Ukraine conclude humanitarian procedures agreed upon on June 3rd in Istanbul? And the President called these exchanges a prerequisite for the next round of negotiations. Did Ukraine offer any dates for such a new round of negotiations? You have used some veiled wordings to hide your real question that is on the surface. Is there a real date for the third round of negotiations? When it is set, we will inform you on that date once corresponding agreements are reached. Thank you very much. And of course, please follow the information coming from the head of the delegation, Mr. Medinsky. Do we have Almaydin with us? I represent Almaydin. Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. Thanks to good relations with all countries, including the United States, what role can be played by Russia to de-escalate the situation in the Middle East? Russian Minister Sergei Lavrov responded to this question during his press conference in Rio de Janeiro on July 7th. The text is available on our website. As far as removing the concerns goes with regard to Iran nuclear program, everything is in force. We are a permanent member at the UN. We can use that in our national status to do everything so that our friends and partners in the region live in peace and have good neighborly relations. Efforts to de-escalate the tensions given the conflict and tensions can be repeated between Israel and Iran, and given the bloodshed in the West Bank and in Gaza, the armed conflicts in Sudan, Yemen, and other flashpoints. So given all of that, we are making every effort to de-escalate. That's our only objective. You have rightly pointed out that we have trust-based and close relations with Middle East countries. We maintain dialogue with all our partners, and we encourage them to use political and diplomatic channels to solve the conflicts. We help the conflicting parties to converge their positions, and if there is an interest on their part and on the part of other influencing parties, including the U.S., to constructively cooperate with us in the strategically important region, well, we never refuse any contacts to work jointly, including at the United Nations. Thank you. Do we have Verelk with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. I have 3 questions today. On July 7th, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Mikhail Galuzin held a meeting with an Armenian ambassador in Moscow, Mr. Arsenan. In Foreign Ministry's report, there was information that they discussed a number of questions of bilateral relations and regional agenda, including comparing notes on the schedule of upcoming Russian-Armenian contacts. What contacts are mentioned there, and do the countries plan any reciprocal visits of officials to Moscow or Yerevan? You know that we have close relations between our countries and between our peoples, so our bilateral dialogue is quite multifaceted in nature. A couple of visits, high-level visits, have taken place so far since the beginning of the year. We always inform you on the visits and contacts when they are coordinated and there is understanding that they can be announced. So as soon as we are able to inform you on the contacts, we will do so. Last week, another case of banning Russian citizens to enter Armenia took place. Ex-Senator Franz Klinsevich, I'd like to know whether this question was discussed during the talks with the ambassador. What's the result? Of course, we do not only discuss it behind closed doors, but also publicly. The issue of stop lists with regard to Armenia requires commenting on a frequent basis. We consider the ban for our citizens to enter the country as an unfriendly state that runs counter to the allied character, to the friendly character of Russian-Armenian cooperations. We have repeatedly called upon our Armenian partners to stop this vicious practice. This issue was discussed during Sergei Lavrov's visit to the Republic in May this year. The Armenian side was proposed certain steps, so we are expecting a response from Yerevan. Last question. The other day, Russian Telegram channels published a document on the court verdict of the Ukrainian court verdict with regard to contracts between Ukrainian Special Export Arms Trading Company and Azerbaijan that were signed after the beginning of the special military operation. Can you please comment on deliveries effected by Azerbaijan to the Kiev regime, to Kiev? You just mentioned some Telegram channels that describe something that is happening in Ukraine. I'm just going to give you a general answer. Take any state, private businesses, state level, as far as deliveries go, arms deliveries to the terrorist Kiev regime, you know our positions very, very well. Any information, any reports that are connected to this are verified very carefully, especially when we're talking about unfriendly countries. If the discussion is around the countries that we maintain a trust-based dialogue with, that we have that we're allies with, of course, we raise these questions, we discuss them with these allies, and we work, and we're talking about, and we work on the diminishing the damage, the detriment, and this is the damage to international peace and security. Thank you very much. Let me underline this. Delivering or supplying the Kiev regime with weapons, meaning just nurturing the terrorists. Those countries which do that sell the weapons that will be distributed further across the globe. These weapons are used to kill children, civilians, in a targeted manner. Those are not accidental deaths. The West says the following: collateral damage, or collateral losses, as they say. No, it's not the case. They launch targeted strikes, killing civilians, both adults and children. Do we have Greater Asia with us? Please accept sincere congratulations on receiving the Best Manager Award. I was one of many, you know, but thank you very much for your words. I think that, to a larger extent, it reflects not my personal accomplishments, but the work of the ministry towards the openness for journalists and the public. This is the approach, and this is the level set by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and we are trying to do our best to implement these values. Well, the professional community has given the credit to us for it. You are a renowned sinologist. You defended your PhD thesis by researching transformation in the interpretation of traditional New Year celebration symbolism in modern China, and you have focused on the last quarter of the 20th century. This year I graduated from the Institute of Asian and African Studies of Moscow State University, and I'm specializing in China. It is known that you used to live in China for a long time, and you know the language of this country and the culture of China. Based on your personal experience and the years that you spent in China, did your experience help you somehow in your country, and what should a person know about China who wants to be friends with China? I think you have exaggerated my accomplishments as far as China and the language go. Regardless of who you're friends with, you should understand what a real friendship is like. Some people treat it lightly, you know, like an acquaintance. The friendship, and there's a good quote for it. It's a 24/7, round-the-clock thing. It's a real love, a genuine affection. It's, you know, being ready to take self-sacrifices. It means being genuine, being frank. Friendship is an special accomplishment of humankind, and I think it might be attributed to or added to the list of traditional values that we should impart on future generations. It doesn't matter who we're talking about, person or social group, when they are looking at the friendship with someone, they should first understand what they're talking about. Your media outlet is called Greater Asia. With regard to Asia, I think we can hold a separate conversation during a conversation, you know, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. If you don't have any other questions, thank you very much. Goodbye.